give the dead space 10-15 seconds, and then I'll start the intro. So here we go. What's up, Podcast Nation? This is Aren't You Funny, aka Drew. I am a mental health therapist by day and a gamer by night. So we broadcast this podcast live on Twitch every Tuesday we get the chance, and hopefully that'll be for a really long time. So though I am a mental health therapist by day, the intention of this podcast isn't to replace anything you've got going on mental health wise currently, whatever treatments you may be involved in or whatever outreach you may be doing with people, or whatever the case may be. This isn't to replace any of that. This is purely just for food for thought, things to think about, give you different perspectives, maybe give you some different ways to deal with things that can improve your quality of life. So that's the intention of this podcast. And I think sometimes that means that we'll be covering really difficult material, and it's really hard to consume that material sometimes because you're like, you know what, this is really intense, or this is really graphic, or whatever the case may be. But I think sometimes being able to push through that and being able to listen to it and experience it can make you a stronger person or give you a different appreciation for things, or whatever the case may be. But if you feel like you need to skip an episode for that purpose or for whatever reason, I completely understand, because I've had similar experiences myself. But speaking of difficult material, I think something to keep in mind with this is that if you do decide to reach out to me for whatever reason, or even if you're just thinking about hurting yourself in general, I'm not going to be the best resource for that as much as I'd love to be. Instead, I highly recommend that you reach out to some professional assistance, whether it be the National Suicide Hotline, or if it just means you Googling your city and then crisis services in your area, and they'll be able to be a much better resource than I am, just because I'm some random guy on the internet that may or not be able to get back to you, and probably won't be able to give you the kind of help that you need in that moment. So I love to hear from people, and I encourage you to reach out, because one of the things that we talked about in a previous episode was reaching out to support people. However, I'm probably not going to be the best source of support in that moment. I think there are definitely better outlets. So, with all of that being said, we have a super special guest today, Miss B. So, she is somebody that I met pretty recently, actually, now that I think about it. And but she's quickly become a very good friend, and someone that I hold very dear. So hopefully,
Aw.
hopefully she feels the same way, because I just put it out there.
All the
But
feels, man, all the feels.
right. So B, would you mind kind of giving everybody an idea of how we met, since I really honestly don't know?
Well, we actually met, I think it was in a party with Kit, or in Kit's chat. It might
That
have been
sounds
in
about
Kit's
right.
chat.
So Kit is another very active member of the Twitch community that I'm a part of, and she's also a fellow streamer and whatnot as well. Just for those of you that don't know.
Love you, Katari.
That's right. So yeah, we were in a party together with Miss Kit, and
Yeah, I think we were playing PUBG, and you were kind of showing me how to play, and it was pretty cool, because I think it was like my third game or something.
that
And
okay. So that's coming back to me.
yeah, yeah, I think it was my third game in PUBG, and and uh and I appreciated that you were so patient with me. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I was
Absolutely.
like, I was like, what do I do here? And I died like instantly, like every time.
Of course, of course, as is the case. So for those of you that are not of the gaming world, PUBG is essentially a battle royale game where you face off against 90 in the high 90s of other people, and you try to compete and shoot your way to the top, basically. But yeah, so B over here was still kind of learning the ropes, which I think now that you mention that, I'd been told that you had played like a total of 12 hours in the game, if that. Or
Yeah, I don't even think it was that
yeah,
long. I think it was maybe like 20 minutes.
yeah, okay, okay, so it definitely wasn't as much as I thought. Um, so yeah, so she was very new to the game, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna pretend to be an expert, but I at least know a little bit about it, so I'll try and help how I can. And you were super patient with me too, so I tend to get into like super excite mode, and I tend to overload people with information when I'm trying to be super helpful, because I'm like, ooh, I get a teaching opportunity, this is awesome. So I think you were super patient with me, and you're like, all right, well, whatever, I'm gonna just chill with this guy. So I
Yeah,
appreciate
it
that.
was awesome. It was a good time. I always
Absolutely.
have fun playing games with you.
Absolutely. So, so that's kind of how we met. For those of you that don't know who B is, but so I think one of the things that we had talked about when we were discussing your episode, and we were like, okay, well, while I know that you can provide something valuable for everybody, you were a little unsure of like, how do I even begin to do this? And I think that we had kind of come to the conclusion that rolling with the punches was going to be kind of the main idea behind today.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, because I've definitely had to take major adjustments in my life. So
Absolutely. Yeah, and I know that we already talked about this briefly, but that you you've definitely had a lot of challenges in your life and a lot of adjustments and changes, and so I know that one of the things that we had talked about, and with this episode in particular, was the idea of rolling with punches, and then on top of that, um, kind of looking at the difference between the between expectations and where life ends up taking you, and dealing with the adjustment that it takes for that, and
yeah, exactly.
and that being the main idea behind rolling with the punches. So yeah, do you want to kind of take it from here and let me let me be your
Sure.
fellow passenger?
um, okay, well, I guess the major hit was um, I was 11 and I had a brain aneurysm,
Yeah,
and and it was it was pretty difficult because when I came to, I didn't know, I didn't know who I was, I didn't know where I was, and I had to relearn how to do a lot of things like talk, and I had to relearn how to walk, and I had to relearn how to hold a pencil, and all the stuff that goes along with
fine motor skills.
right, yeah, fine motor skills, memory skills, and things like that. And then I was like, okay, everything's going all right, and it really gave me the love for wanting to be a doctor. So I
Absolutely.
was like, yeah, I'm gonna work really hard, and I want to help people, and I want to be a doctor, and I want to, this is my path. And I had always been pretty ambitious, but well, at least my dad told me that I'd always been pretty ambitious,
Yeah, sure.
because I don't really remember before 11 years old. I don't. It's very spotty on
Yeah,
like the things that I remember.
even to this
And
day.
yeah, yeah, even to this day, it's really difficult to remember. It's kind of like, do I remember that from stories people have said, or do I remember it
Mm,
because I remember it firsthand?
absolutely.
Um, but when I was about, I think it was 12 or 13, my dad was diagnosed with melanoma on his cheek, and so we went, and he went and he got that taken care of, and they didn't catch it all. They said that there was a chance that some of it broke away and it settled in his lower intestine, colon, liver, pancreas areas, lower body areas,
Yeah,
and it just kind of settled in and took root, and so while my dad was going through chemo, he couldn't really. My brothers were old enough to really take care of themselves, but since I was like 12, almost 13, um, I couldn't really. I relied on him a lot. And
Sure.
so he was like, honey, you're going to have to go and stay with your mom for a little bit while I take care of this. And so I was like, well, I don't really know my mom.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. How's this
I
supposed to
my dad was a
work?
single parent all his life. Right, right. Yeah. I mean, I'm living in Illinois. Well, how am I supposed to get to Virginia?
Right.
You know? And so it was uprooting and living with mom. And I was like, okay, well, all right.
Guess this is
And
what I'm doing
so
now.
I kind of right, exactly. I'm doing this now. Okay, I live in Virginia. I have to learn how to talk with a southern drawl.
Sure.
and so, and so so my mom is type of one of those moms or one of those people that want to be your best friend instead of your parent.
Sure.
So uh, and my dad was very parent. Here's structure, rules, live in this space, and we'll be fine. And my
Yeah.
mom was pretty much like, yeah, we could do whatever. Let's go out to eat. Let's not. Let's yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
and so that was an adjustment. And when I was 16, my dad passed.
Yeah.
And so my dad made my mom promise me that we weren't going to move around a lot. And so she was like, yeah, whatever, we won't move around. And as soon as he passed away, we started moving.
Yeah.
And I went to 5 high schools in 2 years. Well, 5 high school buildings, 6 high schools counting homeschool.
Yeah.
I caught mono at my fourth high school and had to be homeschooled for 3 months while I was recovering from mono.
Good
And
grief.
then by the time I got out of that, um, I just didn't care because I was like I was straight A student in my freshman sophomore year of high school. I was a straight A student, and my junior year, my first year of junior year, I went down to D's, and then after my dad passed, well, that was after my dad passed. I went to D's, and then I got expelled. I was really really dumb, and I smoked weed on the school property at a school dance, and of course that's a no no.
Right.
And
Yeah. They're not gonna.
and
They're not
I
exactly gonna be thrilled about that.
right, exactly. And so rightfully so, I owned up to it, and I was like, yeah, I did. And I got expelled from school. And um it was uh at that point of my life, I was like, okay, what is relationships? What is
Yeah.
life? What is, that any
Yeah.
17 and a half year old would ask.
Sure.
And 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 so I took to the internet and started talking in chat rooms because wherever you live in the United States, you can always chat with people online, and you can
Yeah.
form relationships with these people and take them with you.
Yeah.
Because the the people that I was meeting face to face, I was having to get to know very quickly, and then quickly saying goodbye to them.
Yeah. Knowing that you were
And it,
probably not going to be there very long.
right, yeah, I didn't even bother making friendships in the last couple of high schools because I was like, people wanted to be my friend, but I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. I may not be here long enough to remember your name. So
Which then, of course, comes off as like super stuck up. And you're like, oh, okay,
it
well,
does.
yeah,
It does. But then I've got to explain, every 6 weeks, I haven't been in a high school more than 6 weeks in the last 2 years.
right. By no
So
fault of my own.
right, exactly. I mean, and my mom had the coolest job. She did kick-ass job.
Yeah,
She did electrical designing for like big. companies,
Yeah.
like and she did like blueprints and 3D modeling, and it was the coolest job. I loved sitting there watching her do it, but I hated the repercussions of uh of having to move from place to place.
Right.
And and so when I turned 18, my mom was like, yeah, you stay here, get your GED. I was in South Carolina. I was in nowhere, South Carolina, like literally nowhere. There was a bar up the street called Nowhere and a gas station next door called Somewhere. And
Yeah.
like literally nowhere, South
Yeah.
Carolina.
Nowhere,
And
nowhere.
and and I walked to the gas station like daily or every other day to get like a drink or whatever, and it was like a half mile up the street. And so there was really no prospects. I didn't have my license. I didn't have a job. I didn't, you know, I didn't have my education, just junior year education.
Yeah.
And I turned 18, and my mom's like, okay, I'm going to Virginia. You stay here. I'm only going to be there for a couple of weeks. There's no reason for you to come with me, you know, because you're just going to be just sitting in an apartment for 2 weeks. You've got your friends here, da 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 da. And I was like, oh, my mom's finally being kind of considerate. You know, she's being really cool about this. You know, we're
Yeah.
keeping this place in South Carolina. Maybe we're going to stay for a little while. And then she calls me. We talk like every few days, uh, and she calls me up, and she says, well, you know, my contract's going to be a little bit longer than I expected. They want me to stay on for a year. And I was like, okay, cool. You know, when am I coming to Virginia? She was like, well, that's the thing. She said, you're 18 now. So it's time for you to be an adult. And it is time for you to either sink or swim, sweetheart. And that will always be in my head.
Whew.
She was like, it's time for you to sink or swim. So, you know, she said, you've got another week of electricity at the trailer, and your last Social Security check is going to come in it was like a couple more days or something like that. And she said, you better find a place to live because I'm selling the trailer. And I was
Oh
like,
my.
what?
Uh,
I was like,
oh
are you
my.
serious?
Yeah. That is.
I was like, are you serious?
Whew.
It's November.
Right. Jeez.
And so I was like, all right. So after I had my little breakdown of, oh God, she was leaving me again, and this is where the hell am I gonna live?
Right.
And I'm an adult and I don't even know what this means.
Right.
And and uh and so I had a friend, her name was Heather, and her uh, her mom was the landlord of the trailer that we were living in. And she was like, man, that is the crappiest thing I've ever heard of any mother ever doing besides leaving their baby on the doorstep. And she was like, you're going to come and stay with us until you can get on your feet. And I was
Oh,
like,
thank goodness.
oh my God, thank you. I
Right.
was like, oh my God, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh.
And so I packed up my stuff and they came and got me like 2 days later. And and so it was uh, it was interesting because, you know, I knew how to move, I knew how to pack, I knew
Well,
how to
sure.
resettle in a new place because I've done it like 8 times.
Right.
And,
In 2 years.
and right, exactly. And so you know, I was just like, okay, this is something I got to do.
Right.
And
This is life
and
now.
that's yeah, this is life now. And I've had to have that this is life now moment uh times. And so I was just like, whatever. And so my my first impression uh with Heather's parents was uh interesting. They're
Oh,
really nice people. They're really, really, really nice people. Don't get me
yeah.
wrong.
Yeah,
but they didn't treat me like a teenager. They treated me as an adult. And
sure.
they were like, okay, so you've been here a couple of days. What are you gonna do? I was
Right.
like, I don't know. I've, I've never had a job before. I don't know. And so there was a Waffle House up the street, and and it was within walking distance because they were like, yeah, we're not gonna like take you places, and you're an adult.
Right.
you know, if you need to go to the grocery store and we're going that way, then yeah, we'll give you a ride, but
Yeah, if
we're
it's
not gonna
mutually
do like this.
beneficial.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And she was like, you can have dinner with us, if we make enough. And it was pretty much roommate. I was renting a room from them.
Yeah,
And
in the most literal of senses.
exactly, exactly. And I was sharing the room with Heather, so I was renting a half a room. and,
Jeez.
and so and so I was very, very, very shy. I was like I was like the girl that was picked on in school for not talking to anybody.
Well, sure.
Um,
Which they
and
didn't know was perfectly reasonable, but
right,
you're like, well, it's kind of a functional thing. Like this is how I cope.
yeah, yeah, and I was like, so where are their jobs? What can I do? I don't even have a GED. I don't have
Right. How do
anything.
I manage a
And
bank
so,
account? Like,
right, I don't even know how to fill
right.
out checks. What the
Right.
hell am I doing?
Right.
Um, and and so Heather was working at Waffle House, and she was like, "Yeah, I talked to the manager up here, and he said that you could train, and if you are good at the job, then you can stay." And I was like, I don't even know how to talk to people.
Right.
How this is Waffle House. This is you talk to everyone that comes in through the door type of place. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I love Waffle House. Oh
Yeah.
God, I love Waffle House.
Absolutely.
Just from the atmosphere. And and I was like, how does this translate to me being able to do this job?
Right.
And so
I do
again,
not feel
there was
qualified.
right, I'm not qualified for this job. I don't even like talking to people. And and so my first day at Waffle House was very, very deer in headlights.
Oh yeah.
And everyone could see that I was like a deer in headlights. I was literally wide-eyed looking at people, and I was like, what do I do?
So please tell me that at least people took mercy on you.
Yes, yes, they
Okay,
did.
good.
They
Good.
did. They were like, sweetheart, you look so scared. I was like, this is my first job.
By the way, you
This is
totally
my
know it's from
first.
the South because they said sweetheart. So just throwing that one
Yeah.
out there.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And so I was like, this is my first job. And of course I had to learn the Waffle House lingo,
Of course.
calling out the orders and things, and having a branding aneurysm and having very short-term and long-term memory loss.
Yeah.
Like I could forget somebody's name in 5 seconds.
Well,
And
yeah.
I'm like, well,
How does this work?
everybody, yeah. And so every time I tell somebody that I forget names and dates and all that stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, everybody does. I was like, no,
No,
like
no.
seriously.
You don't even begin to get it.
It's like, seriously, I could say your name 3 times, write it down on the blackboard, and look at your face and say, who are you?
Yes.
And no, you don't understand the depth. I'm like, if you've ever seen that movie fit for blah, 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 blah.
50
I can
first
talk today,
dates.
really. If you've ever seen the movie 50 First Dates, 10-second Tom, that was me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And and so I had notebooks after notebooks of notes of, okay, this is this step. each
Yeah.
step to each table, and this is my section for the day. And I literally had to draw a map of the restaurant every single day. There were so many things that I had to do to just remember
Yeah.
what I was supposed to do. And but Waffle House quickly became my absolute favorite job
Well, yeah.
because I had my own money. People appreciated me. They appreciated what I was doing. Um, I got to talking with people is not as scary as I had imagined.
Sure. I mean, I'd
And
say the majority of it probably had to deal with you being completely out of practice.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, and so talking to people got to be easy. And then meeting different types of people
Sure.
was very interesting.
Oh,
I
yeah.
the Waffle House that I worked at, it was right in between a bar and a what is that, a hotel. It was right in between a bar and a hotel. So you got the bar people at 2 a.m, which I absolutely loved. My drunk people, they were my
Sure.
people. and and then you had the random people who came over from the hotel,
Yeah.
and you got to meet all sorts of people. Like there was Battle of the Bands. There was like, I got to meet a couple of bands. That was really freaking awesome.
Missed
And
connections over here.
I know, right? And it really drove me when people would give me good tips, because it would really encourage me that, okay, I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I'm doing a good job here. And
Absolutely.
so about 6 months, I'd say about 6 months into landing on my feet, my mom said, sink or swim. Baby, I swam.
You
I was
swam a
doing,
marathon.
I swam. And so about 6 months into landing on my feet and having my own apartment, because I moved out of Heather's parents' house, and Heather and I moved into an apartment together, and we were so, oh God, we were like two kids in a candy store
Oh,
with this
yeah.
apartment, because it was the most amazing thing that
It's our own
we
space and
right
yeah.
we had our own spot. Who's getting groceries? You didn't take out the garbage today. You were like,
You suck as a roommate. Yeah.
stop wearing my clothes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then you're like, oh okay, well it's cool. We can even fight about this. Like, this
Hmm.
is great.
Exactly. I always wanted a sister. and
Yeah.
and, and it was really cool. And then um my mom comes and she tells me that she was diagnosed with emphysema. And she drove from Virginia to South Carolina to come and see me, um, because I didn't have a phone. I wasn't making enough money. I was just barely making rent, and I was and rent and fun money,
Yeah.
because I had to have my nails right. I
Oh, of
had to.
course.
I just had to. And Heather introduced me to eyebrow waxing,
Okay.
and I was addicted to. I was like, every week I gotta go get my eyebrows waxed. and,
Sure.
and so and so so it was interesting, and I was happy that I could uh, provide for myself and
Yeah.
really stand on my own 2 feet, manage my own money, because I'd never done that before.
And a couple of creature
And
comforts on top of that.
exactly, exactly. I mean, I don't care that our apartment only had a TV with no cable, a radio, and two beds. I don't care.
Hey, nope. You've
That
got a spot.
at least we have beds.
Exactly. Beds
And
that function.
exactly, yeah, have drawers and everything. Like I had
Absolutely.
drawers underneath my bed,
Oh yeah.
and so it's like I didn't even need a dresser because I had drawers.
Absolutely.
and I had a steady boyfriend at the time,
Hmm.
and I was I was um I was doing really good, and when my mom dropped a bombshell, she was like, I'm not doing good. But I've got emphysema, um, and I really need your help to get around my house and to keep things clean and to do this and this. And I'm like, Mom, I'm like, I'm just starting my life here. I
Right.
was
I'm
like,
just now getting somewhere.
I was like, and of course, in the back of my mind, my dad is telling me,
You better go.
"It's your mom." He
Yeah.
said, "It, he, it's your mom," and that's what my dad always distilled in me. Even though my mom wasn't around, he was like, "That's still your mom."
Yeah.
And so, of course, I I went to my manager and I quit my job, and I told all of my I had my one last day. I told all my favorite customers that I loved them,
Yeah.
and I made probably $300 that night, and it was the best night of my life because it was my last. I told him if I was going to go out, I was going to go out with a bang. I did a 17-hour shift,
Woo! You
and
were not playing
it was
around.
no, I wasn't playing around. I did 2 in the afternoon, 7 in the morning, and that was a Friday night.
Okay, so that was bars hopping kind of night too, and
Yes, exactly. I knew all my favorite customers were going to be there, and I just had to tell everybody bye.
well, sure.
And and so my mom even came by at like 4 in the morning to have a an omelet and everything. It was really great. The last night of Waffle House was fantastic, and I told him that as soon as my mom was better, I would be back. Um, because I love Waffle House. Waffle House is life, and uh, I wasn't back because
Yeah.
my mom needed me. My mom needed me, and and then I met my husband, and and then happily ever after and all that stuff.
Of
But
course.
um, but yeah, the the thing that I've learned in life is that you can never ever expect to know what you're going to be doing the next day.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, you could plan. You could,
Yeah.
because I planned. I planned. I
Yeah.
planned on being a doctor. I planned on graduating high school. I planned on going to college. I planned on being successful. Um, but life happens,
Yeah. Life had other
and
plans.
yeah, exactly. And I spent a good portion of my adult life being extremely depressed
Sure.
because I wasn't a doctor. And it was, I went and I sought help because I knew I was in a place where I just couldn't.
Yeah.
And there was like this huge stigma about people seeking help and going and seeing a psychiatrist or psychologist or even a counselor.
Yeah.
Um, but I went to my doctor one day and I was like, I need this. I need to talk to somebody.
Yeah. Things aren't right.
Yeah, because after having kids, chemical imbalances
Sure.
and all that stuff, it was just it was real hard.
Yeah.
And so I found this. She suggested this really fantastic doctor. His name is Brian, and he was training me uh, to be a psychiatrist. And
Yeah.
so he was doing internship, and it was him and Lydia, and they were fantastic. They were so great. And Lydia, excuse me,
You're fine.
uh, Lydia left, and so Brian and I were just kind of sitting there going, "All right, now what do we do?"
Yeah. Yeah. We've been
and
doing all this work, and now all that's gone.
And so, so he stayed on. He stayed on to be my counselor and he gave me all these tools, all these pamphlets, all of these things to help me to not sit at home and think about all the stuff that's gone wrong
Sure.
and to focus on the stuff that really makes me happy. And the last time I saw him, I told him I was doing Twitch and I was doing this and I was meeting all these fantastic people. And he told me he was proud of me. And it was, it was so great. It was so great that he said he was proud of me, that I had made such improvements,
Yeah.
and that I had found something that really truly makes me happy.
Yeah.
And I get to I sort of get to help people because that's always what I wanted to do. I always
Yeah,
wanted to help
absolutely.
people. And so, doing Twitch and making the little things that I make, it's in some way I hope that it improves somebody.
Absolutely.
It helps somebody, um,
Absolutely.
because it really helps me
Yeah.
to help others. And I told myself I wasn't gonna cry.
Of course.
I was like, "You're not gonna cry today. You're not gonna cry today." But after the kids were born, and I saw help with Brian, and I found out that um, taking medication is not doesn't mean you're broken.
Oh, absolutely not.
Because when I was when I was living with Heather, with my roommate, she was bipolar, and so she always had the stigma that, okay, I take my medication for a little while and I'm fixed. I don't have to take it anymore. And
Yeah.
so she always was like, I hate taking this medicine because it makes me feel like I'm broken.
Yeah.
And I had never been on medication before. I had never even taken a Tylenol 3. And and it was just something that I picked up that, okay, well, if you're on bipolar meds, or if you're on depression medication, then there's something wrong with you. And it's just so not so,
Yeah.
because when you have trauma in your life, you can't help you can't help the scars.
No. No, no.
And so, if certain medications are right, because I went through a lot of that. Okay, this makes me too sleepy. That one makes me that I have bad reaction to this one. I found out what I was allergic to the hard way. And and so um it was just a realization that you can have depression, but you don't have to be depressed.
Yeah. It's kind of what you choose to
And
do with it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I just suggest to everyone that is having issues to go and talk to somebody. If it's not a professional, then talk to your best friend. And if they're not giving you, if they're not, I don't want to say if they're not helping you solve the problem,
But if they're
but
not
if they're
supportive.
not, right, if they're not being supportive, if they're not uplifting you, if they're not being there for you, or giving you tools to help you get out of the rut that you're in, then go and see somebody professional, you know,
Yeah.
and it's not a bad thing,
No.
because I I talked to Brian for 2 years, and And I had a postpartum depression, and it was great because, he really challenged me to not think about the bad things. To,
Sure.
okay, you you thought about the bad thing. What good thing can you do to close that gate of the bad? He had this whole scenario of opening and closing gates,
Yeah.
and and um and he was like, well, you've got this going on. What can you do to combat this bad thing?
Yeah.
And so I'd always been a pretty crafty person. So he was like, yeah, just dive into your crafts.
Yeah.
He's like, if you can't
Create.
go, yeah, be creative. And so that's really where Be Crafty spawned,
Okay.
was was from Brian telling me to be creative, and I was like, you know what, I really like bees. I like being crafty. I was like,
This is
that's
perfect
kind of
fit.
that's kind of perfect.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, yeah, I mean that that's like part of me.
Yeah.
um, and it's an awesome thing that you can go through things and it not be, um I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like, you can get to the other side.
Yeah. Yeah. Knowing that there really is a light at the end of the tunnel, knowing that, there is the possibility of moving past this thing that's going on in your life, no matter how horrible it is, kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Um but yeah, I mean that's pretty much what I wanted to share about.
Fair enough.
Did anybody have any like questions or anything in the chat or whatever? I don't I don't know if I don't know. I'm kind of antsy right now.
It's all good. So, so I think a couple of things that you touched on make a lot of sense, and that I think a lot of the times we end up with this idea that, oh, okay, well, because I'm having struggles, or because um, I'm experiencing this bad thing, that must mean that I'm broken, um, or this must mean that I'm a weirdo, or that I'll never be normal, or whatever the case may be. There's a thousand thoughts that can go through our heads, but essentially,
Yeah.
there's all these thoughts and things that happen, and it's really it couldn't be further from the truth, because I think having those struggles is part of what makes us human, and is part of
Yeah,
what makes
exactly.
us real people. And like you said, and I think Bailey in his episode touched on this really well, as also in saying that, like, look, even if you don't decide to go talk to a professional, even if you don't decide that that's in the cards for you, or whatever the case may be, reach out to somebody. And whether it's a support person or whoever, much like you were talking about, like, find somebody that has a positive impact on your life, and hang on to them and
Oh
use
yeah.
them as a support, because otherwise, like, why are we even there? Why are we even considered friends in the first place? Like, why even bother saying, like, oh yeah, we're friends, if you're not really going to be there for each other? What purpose
Right.
does that serve? So I think that was one of
Yeah,
the. Go ahead,
I
go ahead.
definitely learned about fake friends and
Yeah.
all that in going through the different the different high schools and working at a restaurant. And
Yeah.
there's a difference between work friends and friends that'll be there for you, and different there's and I hate it when people get upset when I tell them, yeah, this is my acquaintance,
Yeah.
because they're like, what, we're not friends? I'm
Right,
like, what?
right. How real do I be with these people?
right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like I know you, but you
Yeah.
don't know.
Oh yeah, we work together. Yeah, but we like talking stuff. Yeah, that too. We talk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's another thing that I think I cover that in one of the episodes, like episode 1 or 2, of like, knowing, okay, well, where do people really sit and how much do I trust them? And again, that kind of return on investment thing, to just kind of put a business spin on it, of like, I'm investing this much time and energy, and am I getting anything remotely similar out of it? And if not, do I need to adjust my expectations, or what do I need to do? So I think that
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And touching on something that Sam had said, or isn't that Sam?
Yeah.
S
Yeah,
underscore
yeah.
one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, touching on something that Sam said, um that you can be honest with your therapist. Because you you have to know that it's not gonna leave that office, whatever you say,
Yeah.
because they can't say anything to anybody, not unless like you're gonna hurt yourself or whatever.
Yeah.
But um but two, it helps them to help you if they know what's going on. If they know what's going on in your head, or if they know what's going on in your life or your struggles, it helps them to help you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I don't want to dive too much into this, because I don't want to turn it into like a, oh, I'm a therapist, let me sit here and vent about what it's like to be a therapist or whatever. But I think
Yeah.
what you say is absolutely 100% true, because ultimately, like, we as therapists only have a small snapshot of your life, and we're realistic about that. We know that. Like, as much as we may discuss, like, oh, okay, well, I have crippling depression, and all the coping skills that we can talk about to help make things better, and all those different things, it it's all still based on your perspective. And even when we get outside points of view about what's going on with you, it's still it's still tainted, in the sense that, like, okay, well, I'm not seeing it firsthand. And even then, that's just my view on what's going on. That doesn't necessarily make it right. So the point being with all of that is, the more information that we can get, the more that we can get to what's going on and help. Because
Yeah.
ultimately, like, I may have an idea of what's going on with you, but I don't know until you tell me what's going on, and then we can work together. Because if I'm operating off of 10% of the real truth, then that's only 10% of what's going on that I can help with.
Hmm.
The rest of it I have to take
Exactly.
guesses, and that's not good for anybody.
Well, I mean, I think about it like this, and Olivia, no, what's her name? Anyway, the female therapist I was seeing,
Yeah.
um, she had said it like this. She said you wouldn't go to the emergency room knowing that you have a broken foot, just saying that you have foot pain.
Right. Exactly.
You you know, you wouldn't go there and just say my toe hurts
Yeah.
if your leg was lopped off or something. I mean,
Yeah.
it the more information, I mean, and I know that that's a very literal, you can see that it's broken and all that things,
Yeah.
but emotions and personalities and experiences can't be seen
No.
as readily as like a broken foot.
No, and I mean, we as
So
therapists are trained to look for signs, but ultimately it's just
mhm,
that. It's just signs. It's not, oh, this is what's really going on. We can say, okay, well, this
mhm.
might be what's going on.
So I mean, the more information your therapist has, the better you're gonna get in help.
Absolutely.
Um,
I could not have said it better myself. Thank you so much.
you're you're welcome. I mean, it's the absolute truth because I mean, like you,
Yeah.
you you go to somebody for help and they want to help you and it's a good thing. It really
Yeah.
is a good thing that somebody, even if it's their job, it's their job for a reason. but
Yeah,
you know, they want to be there for you. So,
absolutely. And, and I think the other thing about it too, um, again, without diving into this too much, because I don't want to like completely change where you want the episode to go. Um, but I think one thing to consider with this too is that just because you've gone to a therapist and doesn't mean that you're automatically going to click. And it may be that somebody that's very highly recommended, or somebody that, oh, well, my friend went to this person or whoever, that doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. Sometimes you have to kind of shop around a little bit and find somebody that you do gel with. And there's no shame in that either. And we as therapists
yeah.
know that. Like, we know that while I may be very inclined and want to help everybody that walks through the door, I know that realistically I'm not going to be able to, because I'm not going to click with everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really really lucky to click with the two that I got.
Absolutely.
And the first one that I had, because I had seen one when I was a child, or when I was younger. That's a different episode. But
Yeah.
but we didn't get along. I did not like that therapist. I was like, we just didn't get along.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, like funny what Funny said is that, you're not gonna click with each of them. Shop
No.
around, and if you don't click with immediately with the therapist that you're seeing now, it doesn't mean that all therapists are like that. It
No.
doesn't mean that they're all trained or whatever. Everybody has different personalities, and I was just really really lucky to get Brian,
Yeah.
because he was really supportive, really amazing.
Absolutely. Well, I can't tell you the number of times that I've had people come in to meet with me during the day, and they'll come in and say like, oh, okay, well, I guess I need to do this, or I guess I need to do that, or whatever. And I'm like, what? Like, that's no, not at all. Like,
Hmm.
I'm here for you. I don't. They're like, well, my previous therapist XYZ, and I'm like, well, that's not me. Like, that's not my style. It's not what I do. Like, I see myself as a guide. I'm not somebody that's going to come in here and all of a sudden wave my magic wand and fix everything, as much as I'd love to. Like, that's just not realistic. Like,
Yeah,
you know what you
yeah,
need. I'm just here to help you find it. And
yeah, exactly.
and I end up throwing off a lot of people with that, but I'm like, look, that's not me. It's not real. So
Exactly.
so so yeah, and so point being, you know, sometimes they've had people where they go in and they're like, okay, well, this person was very upfront or very forward or very whatever, and I liked or didn't like that. And again, it's different for everybody. But the point being, everybody has different styles, everybody has different approaches, everybody has different life experiences, and that shapes how we do everything. So
Hmm.
yeah,
And I know that my story is not the best and or worst, that anybody has ever had. And so, if you have it better, fantastic. But if you have
yeah,
it worse,
yeah,
if you had it worse, then and you're not seeing somebody, then see somebody
yeah,
if you need to.
yeah,
And I'm always around. I mean, Bailey knows that I'm always on Snapchat. I'm always around to talk to people. And my channel is open for honest uh uh conversations
yeah.
and things like that. And so, if you need to talk to somebody, talk to somebody, you know.
Absolutely. B is a somebody, believe it or not.
I am a somebody.
She's not a robot, I promise. But but yeah, and I think again we could make an entire episode about like reasons that people should seek help, and different experiences with different therapists or different professionals or what have you. But but ultimately, I think the important thing is this, you know, self-awareness is everything, and knowing and recognizing when things are not going well for you and being willing to admit that to yourself is huge, because that's when you can get the help you need. That's when you can be involved with different helpers, whoever they may be, whether they're friends or professionals or whatever. But that self awareness is everything, and being willing to have a frank conversation with yourself about, like, you know, like B was talking about earlier. Okay, you know, I'm really not where I want to be with this. I'm super depressed. I'm not myself. You know, I'm happy in some senses, but I couldn't be more miserable in others. So, you know, I need to do something about this.
Yeah. Yeah. And the changing point where I was like, okay, I really need some help was um where I wasn't leaving the house at like every every 45 days or so. I would leave the house, go to Walmart or whatever. But other than that, I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want
Sure.
to get out of bed. I had a like literally a library full of books. I would rather be in a book than
Yeah.
be in real life.
Yeah.
And that was really my turning point. I was like at the at the end of reading the, don't judge me. At the end of reading Twilight for the seventh
Hey.
time.
Yeah, no judgment there.
The Twilight series, don't judge me.
Hey, if you're
Um
into sparkles, I'm not here to judge you for
I am team I know the ending. Um,
it. Team, I know the ending. That's pretty good.
everybody asks me, "Are you team Jacob or team Edward?" I'm team I know the ending.
Exactly. Team, I
And
read it.
I've read this book several times. I know that I know what's going to happen. Um, so, uh, so yeah, when I would rather read the Twilight series, and I did, like from beginning. Oh, you do Midnight? That's awesome. When you read the Twilight series for the seventh time, um, uh, you you kind of click and you're like, okay, why would I rather be reading the same story over and over again than going and being with my family or going to, because I would barricade myself in my bedroom
Yeah.
and read. And there's a bathroom in my bedroom, and I would bring snacks in. I would not leave the bedroom.
Yeah.
And there, I had a TV, and John would come in and say, hey, we're going to town. You want to go? Nah.
Yeah.
I didn't even take a shower today. I was like,
Yeah.
nah.
I'm good.
And yeah. So at the end of the uh, what was that book? The second short second life of Bree Tanner.
I'll take your word for it.
Um, it's an off branch. It's a novella of Twilight. It's
Okay.
from it's a short second life. The short second life of Bree Tanner. She got turned into a vampire and then she died.
Okay.
But it was Twilight from her perspective.
Okay.
Um, and so after I read that, I was like, yeah, I really need to do something.
Yeah.
I need to do something other than sit in bed and read books.
Yeah.
And
You're like,
so
who's
that's
this
when,
person I've become? What is
right.
this? Yeah.
And so my neighbor came over and invited me to church, and it was actually perfect. Um, because I've been kind of like, okay, I want to be involved somewhere, but where,
Yeah. And how?
and how and who, and I
Yeah.
just don't want to go up to a random church and walk in and say, okay, I'm here, and
Yeah.
So my
B
neighbor
has
was a
now entered the
pastor.
building. Yeah.
Exactly. I am here.
Yeah.
And 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 so I was in the front yard, and uh I was letting the kids play, and he came over and invited me to church, and I thanked him, and I told him that I would love to, and then that's when I started going to church, and it's been a pretty amazing transformation between not leaving the house to broadcasting on Twitch.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the most publicly prying things you can do.
Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Exactly. So, you just gotta you just gotta roll with it, you know?
Hey.
And I know, right? There's the title.
There's
Roll
the
with the
title.
punches.
Roll credits. We're done.
But
I'm just
but
kidding.
yeah, you just gotta roll with it, and you never know where life is gonna take you, because
Absolutely.
you could either there was a moment when my mom and I were moving a lot, and I would go kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where I was just kind of like, yeah, okay, this is happening.
Yeah.
And once I got to the point where I was like, yeah, this is happening, and just rolling with it, it in a sixth sense it got easier,
Sure.
because I wasn't I wasn't fighting so much.
Sure.
And so you just, you know, life is all about change, and you can't just expect life to be a certain way.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like you said before, you can have plans, and there's nothing wrong with having like ideas and what I would call like an outline of like okay, well, in general, this is kind of what I want to happen, or this is the general direction I want things to go. But also, and I can't remember who specifically talks about this, but about human beings and adaptability being one of our like only one of our most important traits, because
Hmm.
our ability to adapt either to something or adapt something to our needs uh, means our survival. And so then
Oh yeah.
adapting to knowing, like, okay, well, I know that for me to survive, I need to do X, Y, and Z. And
Yeah.
I think accepting that and saying, okay, well, I'm not going to be in control of everything that's going on in my life, but I do have control over this, and this is how I'm going to assert my control.
Yeah. Well, what I tell my son all the time is that you can't control people or situations, but you can control on how you react to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
I can't tell you how many times I say that on a daily basis.
so, I mean, even though you feel like you're out of control, you still can make that conscious decision to control yourself,
Absolutely.
or to direct into a path where somebody can help you.
Absolutely.
And so, but yeah, I tell my son that all the time, because he's like, well, Tori did this, and then I had to do this, and I'm like, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
You didn't have to react like that. You
Right.
No, you didn't.
You
He's
you
like,
chose
but
to.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you chose to fly off the handle and throw a toy off the room across the room, and now look what you did.
Yeah.
Now you hurt your bear's feelings.
Yeah. Poor bear.
You hurt your teddy bear's feelings. You got to go say sorry and pet him on the head. You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
teddy bears are people too.
That's right. Yeah. Absolutely. Teddy bears have feelings too. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, but yeah, I mean in teaching my son that, I have to learn that too, because I
Yeah.
there are times that I do not react well at all. And I'm like,
Sure.
okay, I gotta eat my words here.
Yeah, yeah, I gotta be a model. I gotta do this too. Whatever. This sucks. Like, yeah,
Right,
I just want to
responsible
fly
mom
off
here.
too. Yeah,
Responsible mom.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Oh, you there?
yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
Sorry,
I
you
just
said yeah,
I
that's, and then you got real quiet for a minute. I was like,
yeah,
no.
I didn't know what to say. I was like, I you know those times where you're like, okay, I'm gonna start a sentence and then the rest of the sentence is just gonna flow out of my mouth and I have no idea what I'm gonna say, but I'm gonna say it.
It's happening right now. Let's do it. And then, nope,
And
just
then
kidding.
my brain was like, nope,
Nope, never mind.
nope,
As much
I
as
got
I'd love
nothing.
this to, it's not happening. Absolutely.
My brain looked at me and was like, I got nothing.
You want me to say what? Oh, no, 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 no. You are sorely mistaken. Absolutely. Um,
Oh man.
well, then so let me look over our, our notes real quick and make sure I'm not missing anything. Um,
I think we may have covered everything.
yeah, I mean, one of the things that I think that you mentioned briefly, but uh, again, and I honestly will probably turn this into a full episode at some point. But parenting, man, like, talk about rolling with the punches. Like, good
Oh
grief.
yeah. Yeah, parenting is crazy. Um, I had absolutely no idea how to be a mom because I was the youngest of three, and
Yeah,
my mom was not my mom.
right.
Um,
She was your best friend.
yeah, my mom was my best friend, or she was trying to be my best friend,
Right.
and so she's the one who kind of introduced me to pot. So
So might not have been the best
that
thing to do ever, but whatever. Like,
right,
yeah,
considering I got expelled from school for smoking a joint on campus.
right.
Yeah.
Might have had something to do with that. Just maybe.
So just a little
Right.
bit maybe. Um, so parenting is I had no idea. So when I was pregnant with Joey, this is oh God, almost 13 years ago. Yes, God, it's almost 13.
Ah!
It's
Say it
almost
ain't
13.
so.
Oh God. Um, and so uh when I was pregnant, I was excited and terrified at the same time. And
Yeah.
I was like, "Yay, I get to be a mommy." And I was like, "Wait,
What
I
what
don't know
is
how to
that?
be a mom.
Yeah.
What is what?
Yeah.
Wait, I
How do
have
I
to
do
be a
this?
mom?
Yeah.
There's this human growing inside of me that is what?"
Right.
I was like all I could think was that episode that movie Alien where the
Oh
alien
yeah.
bursts out of the guy's stomach. Oh,
Yeah.
that's all I could
Spoiler
think
alert.
of.
Spoiler alert, everybody that hasn't seen Alien that's like 20 years old now. The alien bursts out of his chest.
Oh yeah, out of his chest. But that's all I could think of. I was like, oh my God, I don't even know
Yeah.
what what is going on here. And when people said, oh yeah, now you're eating for two, that doesn't mean two adults. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
eat
Yeah.
twice as much. Because I
Absolutely.
thought that's what it meant.
Absolutely. You're like, oh yeah, this is great. I can do this. No
I
problem.
was like, I was so full. I was like, I was so full all the time. And I was like, I'm supposed to be eating for two people, right? And
Nailed it.
so, yeah, I did. I really did. And so when Joey was born, I looked at him and I cried because I was so scared. Hold on, that was my
Yeah.
door. My cat is knocking at my door.
No, you're
Come
good.
on, Frankie. Um, I cried not because it was the happiest moment of my life, but because it was the most terrifying.
Yeah.
Um, and And I looked at him, and I was all doped up, and I looked at John, and I looked back at Joey, and I said, "Wow, we made this human.
What have
What
we done?
what did we do? What do we do with this now?"
Yeah.
I literally asked him, "What do we do now?"
Yeah.
And he looked at me, and he was like, "Oh, honey, it's okay. It's just the epidural. We're gonna." I was like, "You don't get it. I don't think you understand what I was asking."
Right.
But it was okay. I let it go. I let it go. And then I was like, I don't know what to do. I
Right.
read all the baby books. They don't teach you how to be a parent. They just teach you ages and stages and this and this and this, and your
Yeah.
kid's supposed to do this and that. But Joey had colic. They
Oh
don't
yeah.
tell you they don't tell you what to do when you have colic. They
Right.
don't tell you there's no handbook. You're just
No.
flying by the seat of your pants, and you're gonna feel like that forever and
Forever.
forever. and and I found out that with kids, as soon as you get a routine down, as soon as you think you have a grasp on what how to be a parent to this little helpless crying gooing pooping thing, um, that you love dearly, and
Oh, absolutely.
you have no idea. I was like, you keep me up for days. Why do I love you so much?
Right. How can you do this to me and me still like you? What is this?
I was like,
I may like or I may love you all the time, but I surely don't like you right now. Like, please.
exactly, exactly. Please go to sleep. For the
Yeah.
love of God,
Yeah.
go to sleep.
Just this once. Give mommy 3 hours. Come on.
And exactly. And so uh, I was able to reach out and talk to my doctor about this great program called Alliance for Families and Children, um, and they pretty much taught me how to be a parent, how to
Yeah.
be how to be a mom, how to hold the baby, how to breastfeed, how to. It was this fantastic resource, and I really wish that it was all over the place and that everyone could access this fantastic resource that that really helped me transform from scared mom, what do I do with this crying pooping thing, to okay, if he's got this going on, then this, and then I should be working with that, and then okay, he should be doing this at this time, and um, being a stay-at-home mom, Joey was my world. He
Yeah.
was everything. He was, I ate, slept, and showered to his schedule.
Yeah, absolutely.
and and it was very, very interesting on how to roll with being a mom, and all the different things that they do,
Yeah.
that kids do, and when they do it and how they do it, and which I'm a very analytical person. So when they're like, oh yeah, they should be rolling over at this point, and I'm like, okay, well, what makes it so that they were not supposed to roll over before that point?
Right.
How how did we get to that point? And then of course the internet is there, and I'm like, oh, so like muscles are growing, and the brain is developing, and this and this, and you have to be careful what the children see, and how they definitely come out with little personalities. Like I
Yeah.
thought that they were not. I thought that babies were just babies. You taught them everything, and that you gave them their personality.
Right.
No,
Wrong.
no, they
Wrong.
are their own individual person, and you have to figure out them. Um, and it's constantly rolling with it, constant. Like even with my kids now, they're 13 and Tori is 8. I
Every
still
day.
have to every day I look at them every single day and see how they've changed, like from
Yeah,
day to day, and how they're developing day to day.
absolutely.
And
What they're learning and
yeah, and it's definitely an interesting process of I you know being the youngest of three and never ever like my Barbies were never pregnant. They were always the party girls. My Barbies were never they were never the mommy.
that's
they
hilarious.
were they were the doctor and the party girl
Yeah.
that went off with Ken down the hot pink, with the hot pink Corvette, Barbie Corvette. Yeah, I never had any interest in having kids, but it's been the most terrifying and the most rewarding at the same time.
Absolutely.
And
110%. I mean, like you said, if there is anything that will teach you how to roll with punches, it is kids because they are constantly throwing the punches whether they realize it or not. Like,
oh yeah, pushing boundaries. And once you think you've got that boundary set, you've got it
oh,
locked down. It's like fence down, do
yep.
not cross. Then there's like, oh, but there's a little bitty hole over there that I can stick my finger in.
Uh-huh.
And let's see if I can make that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a
Absolutely.
little bitty. And they
I can
learn
just
you
barely fit my head through, but it's gonna be great.
right, exactly. It just reminds me of that cat that gets stuck in the arm of a sleeve.
Right. Right. Exactly.
and and um and so yeah, it's definitely an interesting process having kids and learning how to grow with them.
Absolutely. See,
Um
I'm completely new to it, so like I mean, I have an 8-month-old, so I
mhm.
get it to some extent, but
Oh, just wait.
exactly. Well, literally, I cannot count the amount of times I've heard, "Oh, just wait," or "Oh, it only gets
Yeah.
worse," or whatever. And I know that to be true because I mean, I work with kids, like I work with kids on a daily basis, so I can see some of
Mhm.
the things that happen with kids. But like
Mhm.
even just the sheer amount of adjustments that you make in your life as soon as you find out that you're having a kid, like talk about punches, man. I mean, you flip your entire life around to do what you can if you care about your kids. I mean, in some form or
Exactly. Yeah.
fashion. Like, there's some people that just don't care and that's whatever.
Yeah.
But for the people that really try and really want to do things, you really do, even on like a microscopic level, you change everything when it comes to that kid because you're like, okay, well, I need to make sure that I do this with my sleep, or I need to make sure that they're getting this amount, or I need to make sure that they're doing this. And it's like, good grief, you have so many adjustments that you make without even realizing it half the time. And then you don't
Oh
recognize
yeah.
the person that you were. You're like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, like who was
Yeah.
I before my kids again? Like what?
Right, exactly. And then, well, part of my postpartum depression was that I missed my before time. I
Sure,
missed I missed it so much
sure.
that I missed the girl at Waffle House that could do 17-hour shift and, not bat an eye
And be a
and
champ.
be yeah, exactly, be a champ, go, have this and that freedom and, go to a restaurant or whatever, go to IHOP in the middle of the night and just
Sure.
yeah, you can't you just
Yeah.
if you got a craving for waffles at 2 a.m., buddy, you got to start breaking out a waffle maker
Right, you better
and
suck it up and make some.
right, make some pancakes instead if you
That's
don't have a
right.
waffle maker.
That's right. You better
I mean,
adapt.
geez, it's not like my husband and I used to go to IHOP at 3 in the morning and just go
Absolutely.
and sit there until and watch the sun come up. And
Because you
you
could.
know, because you could, and that's the freedom of not having kids. And Midnight's like, pancakes.
Yeah.
and and but after you have kids, your focus absolutely changes from yourself to that little human,
Yeah.
that little human that you love so dearly, but just don't really like most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially early on, you're like, man, at least like, do something. Like, don't just sit there and be
Right,
a potato.
right, exactly. You just, when you wake up, you eat, and then you go back to sleep. And then it's like, I change your diaper and I give you a bath, and then I may get a smile,
Right,
maybe if I'm lucky, and then you go back to sleep.
right. And then you live for those smiles too. Starting out, you're like, all right,
Yes.
this is life right now. If I can get a smile, that has made my entire day.
Yeah, exactly. And I had a friend come over. My uncle had passed away, and so I asked a friend of mine to come and stay with me for a couple of days. And she had just had a child a few months before, and the child was, of course, I had Tori, and Tori was a little bit older than her child, and uh, I put the child in the little bouncy seat in the
Yeah,
exerciser in the middle of the
yeah,
room, and handed them cookies,
oh yeah,
those little baby cookies.
yeah.
And she was like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm giving them a cookie." And she's like, "I've never done that. You can just hand it to them and they'll eat it." I'm like,
Yeah.
um, "Yeah, kinda, sorta, yeah."
They
And they won't
try.
choke on it, or they won't choke. I was like, she has two teeth. She's got, one on the top and one on the bottom. She can kind of chew a little, she I
Right,
was like, I was like, it's happening. And she
right.
was like, she broke down. She had like a mental breakdown in my house. She was like, I had never thought about it that way, that she's got teeth now. She can eat solid food. She doesn't have to have mushy baby food all the time. You can hand her a cracker and she'll feed herself.
Yep.
and, and I was like, yeah, pretty much.
Welcome.
and, and so, so it was kind of, and I felt the same way when I was a brand new mom,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and uh and the lady from Alliance for Families and Children uh came over and was like, handed me the pamphlet that said, okay, well, now you can start maybe giving them a little bit of solid foods.
Like,
You've done
wait,
cereal,
what?
you've done this, you can start handing them like Ritz crackers because they melt in their mouth, or there's
Yeah,
these little Gerber melty mouthy things
yeah.
that are
The little,
actually fantastic.
the little
I
wafers.
The little wafers and the
Oh yeah.
little yogurt, the freeze dried yogurt
Yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Oh,
yogurt chips or whatever they're called.
they're so
Yeah,
delicious.
yeah.
I sit there, I eat those.
Hey, I respect it.
I
You do
was,
what you gotta do.
I was, I was sitting there, I was eating, I was like, okay, one for you, one for me.
Yeah, yeah. You eat more of your kids' food than you will ever realize is possible.
Exactly.
Like, man, I'm not eating that. Well, one for you, one for me.
Right?
Yeah,
And to introduce it to them, you have to show them, pick it up, put it
yeah.
in your mouth, because they mimic everything.
Oh yeah.
They they are just little sponges. They're like,
Oh yeah.
okay, how do you do this? So you have to demonstrate it for them,
Exactly.
and uh and just when they get it, it's like small victories are huge. Like, I
Exactly.
remember when Joey was like 7 months old, and we were playing with that stick thing with the different color, different size rings on them,
Okay.
and and I would hand Joey the ring and he would try to put it on the stick. And when he got it the first time,
Oh, that was
when he
everything.
oh my God. Oh my
Yeah.
God. He looked at it. He looked at me. We had this a locked
This
eye
aha
contact
moment.
thing.
Yeah.
This He looked at me, I looked at him and I said, "You did it." And he was like,
This is the best day
"Oh my."
ever. Yeah.
Exactly. That look
I
on
have
his
conquered the
face was like,
world.
"I have conquered you, stick. I put the ring
Exactly.
on you."
Exactly. I can do this. What is this?
Right,
Right.
exactly. And
Right.
it was just these small victories turned into humongous
Absolutely.
celebrations, and it's the most amazing feeling in the entire world when rolling with going from single to married to parent to adjustments are geez,
Right.
adjustments
Right. Well,
are
and
huge.
yeah. So I guess kind of bringing things full circle now, since you've started making that transition. So, you want to talk about punches. I mean, so you went from, okay, so I'm perfectly fine and happy, 11-year-old. I think it was 11, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfectly fine and happy 11-year-old to, okay, well, the person that I've been living with my entire life, I can now no longer live with. And not only because it's like oh, okay, well, I'm just going to go spend some time with somebody. It's like, no, I can't because of health problems. So, health
Right.
problems on top of going to a completely new place with a person that you've never spent any kind of like significant amount of time with, and then
Mm-hmm.
losing the most important person in your life, on top of then losing every relationship that you have for 2 years because you're constantly moving back and forth, to then becoming
Mm-hmm.
an adult and then having to figure out, like, oh, okay, well, now I have to figure things out for myself because the person that's supposed to be helping me is gone.
Yeah.
To, like, just like, punch after punch after punch after punch, and you're just like, you know what, like, I'm just gonna keep living, even if I'm depressed, even if whatever, I'm still gonna keep doing it because ultimately this is meaningful to me, this is worth it, whatever the case may be. But what a freaking journey, right? I mean,
Oh yeah. It's been when I told you when we talked about me doing this, I was like yeah, my life's kind of a tragedy.
yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know. That's why I was kind of hesitant because I don't tell a lot of people about the aneurysm, about my
yeah,
memory problems, about my home life, uh, when I was a kid, and
sure,
about it. And we could do a whole podcast on bullying, and because
yeah,
I was bullied and picked on from the time I had gotten into school because I was the tallest person in the class to the
yeah,
time I got expelled from school. Um, and it was every day. It was every school. It was
relentless.
it was relentless, and I can I can tell you a couple of victories too. That one I told you
I
about.
do.
Um, and
Share
it
away.
was it was oh, okay, okay. Well, there was this one person that made fun of me every day in my first high school that I went to. I was at my first high school for 2 years, in my freshman and my sophomore year. And I went to, uh, we were in school for 3 years together, and he made fun of me every day because he was shorter. He was shorter than me. I was taller than him, and he would call me Mack Truck
Yeah,
because I'm built like a linebacker. I've got broad shoulders, and I'm 6 foot tall. I've been 6 foot tall since I was 11 years old, and thank God, I kind of thank God for my aneurysm because it stunted my growth. It stopped my growth.
Oh,
Um, because I was 6 foot tall at 11 years old.
yeah. I mean, that's
And
yeah.
yeah,
That's on the higher end of the curve. So
right, exactly. Um, so so it stopped my growth, and but I was still very stocky, very broad. You
sure.
know, I was skinny, but I was very broad,
Yeah. I
and
mean, yeah.
uh, kind of like Amazon-y. And
Yeah.
so I was called Mack Truck. I was called Amazon. I was called oh God. And this dude, I would hate. Oh God, I hated going to school because I knew leaving one class to go to another one. I think it was like third period to go to fourth period or something like that. This one guy would be walking behind me or around me or something. We took the same path, and he would always honk
Oh
very
yeah.
loudly,
Yeah.
and he would do like the Peterbilt honk, and I was he used to put like stickers on my backpack that said like wide load,
Yeah.
and it was it was relentless. It was every day,
Yeah.
and so when I got done moving around, uh, I got done moving around and getting expelled and Waffle House and meeting my husband and getting married. I ended up going back to the same town where I went to my first high school, and I worked in this restaurant that uh, that I was a waitress, and I was the head waitress and in charge of like taking applications and things like
Yeah.
that. And
A position of
it was
authority.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
It was very nice, very nice. And and so this guy walks in, and he doesn't recognize me, because of course it's been like 4 years
Of
since
course.
he's seen me. And but of course when he walks in, he hasn't changed a bit, and I recognize him immediately. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. This is gonna be great. Oh my God.
Somebody up there loves me.
What? I
Yeah.
was like, why? The first thing that popped through my head was, please, Lord, do not let me throw drinks in this dude's face.
Absolutely.
Because I thought he was coming in to come in and eat. I was like, please let me be professional.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me not get his table, please. Like,
Right?
yeah.
Exactly. And well, I was the only one working at the restaurant
Oh, so
when he
yeah, you
came in,
were
so
destined.
I would have
Oh,
had
yeah.
him regardless. I was like, please don't make me throw his coffee in his face.
Right.
And so he walks in, and I try to seat him, and he's like, no. And I'm like, so what's going on? And he asks if we're hiring, and I was like, I think we are for like evening shift and da 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 da. And he's like, I was wondering if I could get an application. And I look at him like kind of crooked, and I'm like, you don't know who I am, do you? And he was like, who are you, like the manager, just the person I'm supposed to talk to? And it's like, no, no. I said, I'm Mack Truck. And
The look
you
on
should
his
have
face.
seen
Oh,
his
man.
face. You should have seen his face. It went from normal, happy, hi, I'd like to get a job here,
I've got on my
to
professional face.
white. You just saw all the color leave his face. He turned
Absolutely.
white, and he was like, I'm not going to get this job, am I? And I was like,
Nope.
I said, you could apply. You never know what could happen. I said,
Yeah.
but do you really want to work with me?
Yeah.
I said, because I'm going to be the one training you. And he was like, yeah, no.
I'm gonna pass.
He was like, I'm going to pass. And and he walked out, and he was like, yeah, that. And I felt terrible inside.
Well,
I
sure.
felt absolutely terrible because, he's an adult,
Yeah,
when
he's
an
got
adult comes
kids.
in, he probably has kids,
Yeah.
he probably has like child support or something, real adult problems, rent,
Oh yeah.
food, things like that. I felt terrible that I couldn't be more professional
Yeah.
and let him apply for the job and train him or whatever, because I know he would have gotten it.
Yeah.
And but still, the fact that he came in and I was like, no, I'm not working with you.
Yeah. Not happening. This
And
isn't going to be a good work
not
environment
this,
for either one of us. Like,
yeah. And so I felt terrible, but I felt like a form of vengeance, like,
oh
ha,
yeah.
I got him back.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I got him back. Real
So,
life bitch.
exactly. So opportunity for growth here for everyone else that's listening. Like maybe handle it a little bit differently than B, but at the time she's like, this is
I
this is
was
what's happening.
I was 21 and I
Exactly.
was I was I was fresh out of getting my GED, just got married, and my high school bully walks in asking for a job, and I'm like,
Oh, this
no.
is too good. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I cannot let this go.
So I couldn't do it. I
Absolutely.
couldn't let him work with me.
Absolutely.
And so it was just
That's one of those
I
moments.
felt vindicated.
Yeah, absolutely. One of those moments where you walk in and you're like, all right, today is a good day. Like, today is a
Yes,
good day.
exactly. Exactly. But
Good stuff.
that was an awesome point in my life.
Well,
And
yeah.
oh God, I've got Waffle House stories and
Oh, yeah.
oh my goodness.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
besides mom stories, I worked at Waffle House for 6 months and I think I grew tremendously from being a wallflower to
Yeah.
being able to call everyone sugar darling honey pie.
Oh, yeah. Sugar darling honey pie. That sounds that sounds like a southern delicacy.
Yes, it really was. It really was.
That's
And
fantastic.
but yeah, it was I loved working at Waffle House if my back would allow, because I fell at one of my restaurants. I fell and broke my back. No, I fell and hurt my sciatic nerve. And then a few months later, I fell in my kitchen and broke my back.
Oh,
And it was an adjustment. I mean, you
yeah.
talk about an adjustment.
Yeah.
It's like
More punches.
yeah, exactly. You thought you could waitress for the rest of your life. Yeah, nope. Because again, I made a plan. I was like, I'm gonna own my own restaurant. I'm gonna do
Oh, yeah.
this, and ambitious, and and uh, and life was just kind of like, nope,
Just kidding.
just kidding.
Yeah.
You can't. Nope, you're not gonna
Not
do that.
happening.
Nope.
Yep.
And
All those plans?
so,
Nope. Nope. Got to roll with this instead.
yeah, exactly. So I was just like, okay. So it seemed it. I never, when I looking back at my 11-year-old self, I never imagined being where I am today.
Yeah. So you're not like
And
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh no, go ahead. I forgot what I was gonna say.
Sorry. Um, like I'm one of the few people like I self-identify as a freak for this. Like I knew what I wanted to be in middle school. Like people would come to me with their problems. I would help them fix them, or at least I thought I did. And And then I was like, oh, okay, well, I really like this version of helping people. I really like being able to have this direct impact. I really like being able to get this good feedback. I really like all of these things. So this is what I want to do with my life. I want to be a therapist. But even then, if I would have told my, I guess, 11-year-old self then where I am now, I would have laughed. I would have said, yeah, right, whatever. Like, I'm not going to be streaming video games at night. I'm not going to be hosting a podcast. I'm not going to be talking to these random people from all over the world. Like, whatever, there's no way that's happening. You're not going to be a
Mm-hmm.
trainer. You're not going to be, none of that stuff. Instead, I would have laughed and I said, there's no way possible. But life, I can't remember who said it, but the whole expect the unexpected thing, like
Mm-hmm.
that has more truth than I will ever be able to communicate. Like it's so true that if there's one thing in life you can expect, it is the unexpected.
Yeah. Yeah. You are not the thing that I gathered from having a couple of near death experiences is that you are not guaranteed tomorrow,
No.
and that today is the day to be your best
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's
And
definitely the if you need to reach out to somebody, don't hesitate.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, because there was a point uh that I was, and I don't think that you and I talked about it. I don't remember if we did or not, but there was a point in my depression where there was so much going on. um I was having such anxiety, the medication wasn't working, there was screaming going on in my house, and I couldn't hold on to anything.
Sure.
um and I sat in my kitchen thinking about killing myself.
Yeah.
Like literally, I broke down and I was crouched in my kitchen fetal position, contemplating my mortality.
Yeah.
And like, okay, I know my family would miss me, but would it be better without me? Would they be better? Because I
Yeah.
feel like, I'm causing all of these problems, and, I'm not making anybody happy, including myself. And, would it be better? And that was my aha moment of, okay, I really need to just get some help.
Yeah.
And that's when I was, that's when I was talking about um, the kids playing in the front yard and the neighbor coming over and inviting me to church and stuff. That was my lowest point. One of my low points.
Yeah.
There have been a
Lowest point
couple
at the
of,
time.
yeah, that was my lowest point at the time. And it felt like a godsend for him to come over and invite me to church. And I was just like, yes, thank
Yeah.
you.
Absolutely.
And I was like, I needed that,
That was your
you
lifeline.
know. hmm And so, because I didn't have a therapist at the time. I wasn't going to see anybody.
Sure.
All I was doing was just kind of sitting up late, talking to people on the internet. I was really big into Yahoo chat.
Oh yeah.
And when 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 Yahoo
Throwback.
Messenger was a thing.
Oh yeah.
and,
Back in the olden
and
days of AIM and Yahoo Messenger.
exactly, I had an AIM. Oh my god, I loved
Absolutely.
AIM.
Absolutely.
And and but yeah, when you don't leave the house and when you don't have ambition, when you don't have
Sure.
goals, even just a goal of, okay, I'm gonna get up and take a shower today.
Right. I'm
You
gonna get
know,
out of bed.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it starts. I forgot who said it, but it starts with one step,
Absolutely.
and just getting out of bed and taking that one step, um, to go take a shower or to go brush your hair, go brush your teeth.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't have enough energy or want to, I call it my want to.
Yeah.
And and if you don't have enough want to physically go get in the shower and to feel fresh and clean and or like anything like that, just go in and brushing your teeth, go brush your
Yep.
hair.
Yep.
You know, just
Go take care of any
accomplish
basic
something.
need.
Right. Paint your toenails.
Absolutely.
and and I used to have those small victories, and the small victories, it's just like that snowball effect where if you roll a tiny rock down a snow hill, it's going to turn into something huge.
Yeah.
And most people use that as a bad example, like, you
Right.
know, you're going to spiral out of control, you're going to snowball, but you can also use it for good
Absolutely.
things, because that, you know, snowballing the good effects, like going and taking a shower and going and painting your toenails and or coloring something or doing the dishes, even if you hate doing the dishes or
Sure.
whatever, you know, cleaning off the counter and just kind of looking at it and being like, okay, I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to physically tell yourself, okay, I did that.
Yeah.
And and there's some that clicks inside of you. I don't know exactly what it is, but it just kind of
Yeah.
makes you feel a little bit of pride, a little bit of good about yourself to
Absolutely.
say, okay, I cleaned off this table. Awesome. Now it's
Yeah.
pretty.
And nobody else can take that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, you know, it started with me, it started with um taking the kids outside because I didn't leave the house. Like I said, I didn't leave the
Yeah.
house. I literally could not walk through the door. And um I took the kids outside and we were playing, and Tori was playing in the grass. It was a really pretty day. And I was taking pictures of the kids. And then, you know, my neighbor comes over and invites me to church. And that little bitty thing, you know,
Yeah.
that little
Just
bitty
an
thing,
invite,
it's
not a.
just an invite. He was like,
Yeah.
I don't know what it, and the story with that is that I was having that talk to God moment
Yeah.
where it was like, okay, God, give me something.
Absolutely.
And David, my neighbor David, he I knew he was a pastor from John talking to the neighbors and stuff. They actually didn't know that I lived here.
Oh, like they're like, oh, you're
They
married?
right, you're married, you have kids, you know, and they did
Yeah.
not know that I lived there. And I was outside and I was like, I literally started to cry when David went by, and I was like, Lord, you know, if you want me to succeed, if you want me to go to church somewhere, make David turn around and invite me to
Yeah.
church.
Yeah.
And he was on his Harley because I was like, oh my God, he's the coolest preacher in the whole wide world. He's got a
Well,
Harley.
sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
And and he got halfway up his driveway and turned his Harley up. His driveway is like wicked long.
Oh yeah.
Um, and so he got halfway up his driveway, turned around, came back and invited me to church. And that was my God is real
Yeah.
type
Absolutely.
of
That was like a okay. There's something going on here for sure.
right. And so that's when everything kind of changed and I started going to church and I started getting involved and
Yeah.
you know and and, and it's just been really great and it's really blossomed me to have confidence and to you know to be able to talk to my chat and to be able to broadcast
Yeah. Absolutely.
and
Well,
because
and
I never
oh, go ahead.
oh
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, I was going to say I never imagined myself broadcasting anywhere.
Yeah.
I my dad was a radio announcer for a short time, but in college, but
Yeah.
uh he was always, he never really encouraged that, and never really, was like, oh, you should be a radio personality or whatever. And I never even considered broadcasting as an option. I always wanted to be a doctor.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to be a doctor.
Yeah.
But being a broadcaster, being a creative broadcaster has really, it's really fulfilled something in me that hasn't been there in a really long time.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
it's
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I can't stress enough how much like how important it is, and how meaningful sometimes the connections are that you can make with people online. I know it sounds silly, like talking to people, especially people that were around before technology, before the internet, before chat rooms, before all that stuff. Like the idea that you can make real connections with people online is very foreign to them. But then you come around and you experience some of this stuff, and you're like, no, like that actually, that's real. Like that's a
Yeah.
meaningful connection.
Yeah, it really is. It
Yeah.
really is. And even though, like, even before, when it was just like words on a screen,
Yeah.
um like with AIM and AOL and Yahoo Chat and stuff like that, it was just words on a screen. That was
Oh
before
yeah.
like cams and things like that. And
Ah yeah.
you know, the best you ever got was like voice chat. Like when voice chat came through Yahoo,
Oh
I was
man.
ecstatic. Oh God, I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, it's
Groundbreaking.
actual people.
Right. Right.
But even before that, it's so, it was so crucial for me to make these connections, and people didn't quite understand that you can make these um you can make these meaningful connections with people that you read,
Absolutely.
you know, that
Yeah, I mean it's a real conversation, even if it's not something that's being heard. It's still real.
right, yeah, it's still real. And it's not a computer.
No.
And you're not talking to a computer, and it's something that's tangible.
Well,
um
and I mean, it used to be that I mean, there were bots before. Don't get me wrong. Like,
oh yeah.
there were definitely those possibilities. But the people that you were around enough, I mean, whether or not they're real.
Hmm.
Now, whether or not they are who they say they are, that's a different story. I can't vouch for
Yeah,
that.
that's a different, that's different. But
Yeah.
um yeah, if somebody is being absolutely real, and wanting to be your friend, and you have a real connection with that person, hold on to them, you
Absolutely.
know dear, with dear life.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I can't count how many friends I've made and lost
Yeah.
and miss dearly, because there was some very real connections, and in with circumstances and life came with its own set of challenges of being able to hold on to people.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
it's really cool when you can keep somebody.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. And even the possibility of that is incredible.
Hmm.
Like, oh, you actually have the possibility of meeting someone that's worth keeping around. Like, what? What is that?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh,
So,
Vapor's so sweet. He tweeted at us.
oh, good man. I love Vapor.
He's so nice. Me too. He's so sweet. I love him.
Absolutely. Um, so, trying to think. I don't know. Is there anything else, message-wise, that you want to get out there before we start kind of wrapping things up and moving forward with
Um,
the outro?
Not really, just that it's really important to A, connect with people, and
Yeah,
to B, seek help when you need it,
yeah,
and to kind of look at yourself periodically and
yeah.
say, okay, who am I and who was I and how did I get here
Right.
and where am I going to go from here?
Yeah. Who do I want to
And
be?
right, yeah, what type of person do I want to be? And
Hmm.
am I walking on that path to be that
Absolutely.
person? And and definitely, you can't go through life alone. And we're all designed to need somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think again, so there's the adaptability piece that makes us humans, and then there's also finding those connections is the other part of what makes us human, and that desire and that craving for those connections. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, 110%.
So I
Yeah,
think that's all I got.
I think that's a great message. I really do. Um, so chat, as always, if you have any more suggestions or anything that you all wanted to hear more about, before we officially wrap up, please feel free to say so. And while we're waiting for the response, um, I guess to kind of put, some final thoughts out there aside from what B just said, um, you know, I guess for those of you that might have been like, well, um, I'm not in this necessarily for the story. I'm not in this for the journey. Like, I want to know how I can make my life better. So, essentially, and B, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on this. But I
Mhm.
think, she talked about the way that she dealt with things was, eventually deciding to make those connections with people and seek out those meaningful connections in whatever way was feasible for her. So, like she said, there, the real life friends, if you will, or the ones that, like, oh, okay, well, these are the friends that I'm supposed to be making, wasn't really necessarily an option for her, and because she was essentially an army brat without being an army brat, in the sense that she was constantly moving and having to make new connections with people. So then she adapted, and she made that connection virtually, because then, like she said, she could take them anywhere, which was, I mean, good on you for realizing that, because I'm sure there are a lot of people that don't realize that. Um,
Yeah.
and then, I think faith is another thing that you found, where you were like, okay, well, this is something that's meaningful to me. And not just faith in itself, but the sense of community that came with going to church and being invited and all of that. So I think that was a big way that you kind of deal with things and continue to deal with things. Um,
Mhm.
and then, I think just an overall mindset. I think this was very much kind of like a mindset episode, where it's like, okay, well, roll with the punches. Say, okay, well, life, as much as I would like my life to go this direction, or as much as I would like things to be this, realistically, I know that that's not necessarily a possibility. So I'm going to expect the unexpected. I'm going to have a general plan, but I'm also going to keep in mind that it's just that. It's just a general plan. And being willing to say, okay, well, life, bring what you will, because I'm going to be ready for it, essentially.
Yeah.
So you feel like there's anything that you would add to that, or anything that you would, change, or anything you feel like I missed, or.
I would just the only thing that I would add is try not to get bitter
Mm,
with the changes
absolutely.
because that only makes it harder. Like when I was going from high school to high school, I was very angry and I was very bitter and I literally was going kicking and screaming from one high school to the next.
Yeah.
But when I realized that, okay, this is my reality, it went so much more smoothly.
Absolutely. Yeah, so, I guess taking what I was just saying and into a literal context of, okay, well, being very cognizant of where is my mindset with this? How am I approaching this mentally? Um,
Yeah.
and being super aware of your thoughts and how that reacts or how that changes how you react to things.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yep. I think you covered it.
Well, sweet. I I love it. I absolutely love it. Um, so I guess, is there anything that you would like to shout out? Is there? I mean, I know there's plenty of things that you can shout out, and I'm going to shout out the things that you don't. But anything that you would like to shout out as far as ways people can find you, or projects you really care
Um,
about, or anything along those lines?
well, you can always find me here on Twitch. I answer every every whisper, and you can get me on Twitter. It's at bcrafty. I think it's 33 or is it 3?
I'm not
I
sure. You
forgot my
have several
Twitter.
variations of uh,
Hold
several
on,
variations.
let me go check my Twitter. Um,
Okay.
oh, hold on. Commercial break. 33.
Okay.
Be you can get me on Twitter at bcrafty33, or you can find me on Facebook uh at bcrafty. Um, I have a business Facebook. You can message me on there. I answer within a few hours. Or you can get me on Snapchat. Uh, uh, I try not
Instagram.
to let everyone. I try not to let everyone on my Snapchat because I only have one. But
Yeah.
I'm not like the other people where I have a personal and a private Snapchat.
Yeah. Not that
I only have
fancy.
one. Yeah, not that fancy. And then I've got Instagram. Instagram is I don't really go on there very much, but Instagram is bcrafty3, I believe. It's
That
either
sounds
3
right.
or 33, and uh, or you can just like get me on Discord if you guys are in the SC or in any of the. I'm in a lot of Discords. So
Yes.
if you look in, I'm in like 30 plus
Oh
Discords.
my goodness. That's
So
pretty
if
intense.
I'm in Funny's Discord.
That's
I
true.
think you have a Discord.
I
Yeah.
do.
So you guys can get me pretty much anywhere if you need to reach out, if you just need a hug, if you need a friend, if you need someone to tell you that if you're having a crap day and you're saying, B, I'm having a crap day.
she
I will
will
at least
she
show
will
you a funny
respond.
meme. I
Exactly.
will respond with a funny meme.
Exactly.
And and so
Her meme game is
and
on point.
and I'm just putting it out there. If you guys need me, I'm here for you.
Absolutely. See, I just love that about B. And I think also, so project. So she when she does stream at bcrafty on twitch.tv/bcrafty, and that's BEE, by the way. So it's BEE crafty. So B is in like the buzz, not the BE as in state of being. Um,
Yep, because I'm very punny.
a she does a lot of crafty streams, so I 110% support that. Um, she has been making crossbow like little miniature crossbows recently, but she has all kinds of cool things that she makes on and off stream. And she's also part of a supportive group on Twitch for those of you that are on Twitch. Uh, I'm not sure the specific URL for how to get to that, but it's like
It's
sup creators,
twitch.tv sup
right?
creators, SUP creators.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So
I'm
yeah.
I'm on there every Tuesday from in between 9 and 10 to about 3 o'clock. So I'm on there every Tuesday, helping to support the family channel and the creators, and just pretty much shout out all of our fantastic content creators that we have. And um, if there's any sort of uh, fundraising drives or anything like that going
Mm.
on, I'll talk about that. There was a fundraiser blanket that I was making on stream for Fall Rate,
Yeah,
and that turned out really freaking fantastic. And
absolutely.
and he loves it, and I love that he loves it, and it's really cool because
Absolutely.
I stress about my crafts sometimes, even though I think they're amazing. I
Sure.
want other people to think that they're amazing.
Well, you want other
So
people to
it's
realize how amazing they are.
right, exactly. And so when I send a project out, I'm always like biting nails, going, "Oh my God, are they gonna like it?
Yeah, is this going to be the
Please."
one where they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is trash"? Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
exactly. And so I have to work on that with myself, because I know I always stress, and it always turns out fantastic, where they're like, "Oh my
absolutely.
God, this is the best thing in the world."
Yeah,
And and so but I make up things off the top of my head. So if you need something made,
oh
that
yeah.
I
B's your
can I
lady.
can come up with I can come up with patterns and whatnot. I'm going to be
Absolutely.
working on uh it's going to be really difficult. I have another set of shirts that I need to cut up from my father-in-law. He passed away 2 years ago, and I'm making pillowcases out of his
Okay.
shirts. And
Respect.
so it's gonna be difficult, because I loved
Yeah,
that man. He was my daddy. After my daddy passed away, he was my daddy.
absolutely.
And so he was a great guy.
Yeah,
And it's a really awesome thing that my mother-in-law asked me to make pillowcases for the
yeah,
family of his shirts. So it was an honor. So
yeah.
tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow, I'm gonna start on that. Hopefully, if I
Perfect.
don't procrastinate anymore.
Respect. Um, so, so yeah, so basically, if you didn't catch any of that, B's awesome, is what it comes down to, and she was incredibly selfless to come on here and share her story with all of you. I hope that you all enjoy it as much as I did, and I hope that you at least get something out of this. If you want to reach me on or off podcast, you can find the podcast live at twitch.tv/aren't you funny. That's ARENTUFUNNY. And you can also find me on Twitter at aren't you funny, or you can find me on Instagram at aren't you funny TV. If email is more of your jive, then you can feel free to email me at aren'tyoufunnytv@gmail.com. If you want to submit feedback, if you want to send me a story that you want me to share on the podcast, if you want me to cover a specific subject matter, whatever the case may be, if you want to send me an email and be like, you know what, your podcast sucks, cool. Like, please do so. I would welcome the feedback because I want to make it better. So feel free to reach out to me anywhere. And yeah, so I think that pretty much covers where to find me. So I hope that this podcast helped bring you at least a little peace of mind. Peace out, everybody. So we will end it there. But B, you freaking rock. I really can't say enough how much I appreciate you being on. Like, that was legit.
Oh, well, it was really fun, and it was terrifying at some points, but
Sure. I tried to bring you back a little bit. I was like, no, you don't have to go there. It's okay. We're great. Like, don't distress yourself.
but it was okay. I At one point I forgot that we were recording, and I was like just talking, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, oh yeah, we're actually recording this.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
It's like live. There's like actually people listening.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. That's again, it's I appreciate, and I think I never, and chat, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I never felt like there was a point where I was like, okay, like where are we going with this? Because ultimately it all ties in together. So I felt like it was a really good flow personally. I was really happy with it. Um,
Hmm.
it just, yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Me too. I really enjoyed, getting it out there, and um I hope that people get something out of it,
Same.
uh beneficial to their lives, and you know all that fun
Yeah.
stuff.
I mean, that's the reason I do it. So,
Yeah.
I have the same exact hope. But again, I think you put out a lot of really good stuff for people to consider and think about, and I like it. It made an impact on me. If that changes anything, and it definitely reinforces like things that I think and ways that I approach things, and it makes me feel like I'm not entirely crazy. Um, so, so that in itself, uh, I appreciated.
Well, I appreciate you doing this. I
Yeah,
really
no
do,
problem.
because it's it's something that there's a lot of people on Twitch um that reach out and need something,
Yeah,
and they're like grasping for those connections, and I think that it would be, it is an amazing thing what you're doing, and if I could be part of it, then that's really cool.
well, thank you. Thank you very much. I love that you were a part of it. I love, and just so you all know, like B did some incredibly like behind the scenes reaching out kind of stuff today, and I really appreciate that as well because she did everything she could to get it out there, and I think that made